Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the conversation with Al McFarlane. My name is Jeffery Robinson. I'll be filling in for Al today, and the program for today is brought to you by um, the Minnesota Department of Health. We're partnering with the Minnesota Department of Health to remind our community that the risk still exists. So let's continue to follow COVID 19 protocols. Wash your hands, please. Stay aware and prioritize prevention. Together, we can create awareness, encourage testing, and help everyone stay healthy. Enjoy the show, and remember, get well, get healthy. For those who are watching and those who are looking to find the show, you can find us on YouTube at Insight News, MN as in Mary Nancy, /streams. Again, that's at Insight News, MN/streams. And my name again is Jeffrey Vernell Robinson. I am the Senior Program Director here at Bill Wealth, Minnesota, where we have an initiative to help 9,000 families. First of all, I want to apologize for the sound. We are live on location, and that is the sound of sirens going off for the weather emergency alert that they test every first Wednesday of the month. So it may go off a little bit. I hope it don't. If it does, please, we apologize for that. But Bill Wealth, Minnesota, we have an amazing initiative to help 9,000 Black families get into home ownership, to build 9,000 legacies for their family. And today we'll be talking more about unlocking the true value of home ownership. Sometimes I have a lot of conversations with people about home ownership. I've been in the mortgage industry now since 2000 and wow, the financial industry since 1998, but working specifically in the mortgage industry since so 1998. I got into the financial industry. In 2003 is when I actually started working wholly and consistently full time in the mortgage industry. Initially as a processor, I've worked as a data analyst, data input, worked as an appraiser, reviewer, and later on, I went on to become an underwriter. And so I've been looking at mortgages for years, and I've been watching families build stable lives for their families for years through home ownership, analyzing credit reports, reviewing income documents, reviewing assets, you name it, from the poorest person that's the lowest income earner who's possible for purchasing a home to some of the highest income earners. I reviewed assets in excess of $1 billion. It took me a couple of days just to count all of the money. But when people think about home ownership, they immediately you start talking about the value of home ownership. A lot of times people go right into the equity. They go into the appreciation after 5 years and how you pay down your loan and your mortgage and home ownership is about that. I won't lie to you. It is about the money now because it's an investment. Home ownership is an investment. And like any investment, you want the investment to appreciate. You want it to grow. You want it to earn. You don't want it to take losses. And the more it earns, the more better off you are as long as you can access the equity. But then there's another part, and I might say that it's the true value of home ownership. But today's show is about unlocking the true value of home ownership. And to discuss this, I'd like to introduce you all to my guest, Michael Robinson. And for total transparency, I want you guys to know he might look a little bit like me.
So, bro,
How you doing? This is
man,
this is my brother, blood brother, my baby brother actually, Michael Robinson. Michael Robinson, introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Robinson. Again, I'm his youngest brother, sibling.
You can say baby brother.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm his baby brother.
And
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, you all right?
Yeah, so he's my youngest brother, but he's also my baby brother now. And every now and then I like to say that um, 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 because that's just what it is. And um, Michael Robinson, so you a new homeowner, right?
Yes, fairly new. Yes.
How long have you owned in your home?
Um, a year and a month. About a year and a month. A year and 2 months. No, 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 a year and a month. 2 months. Year and 2 months.
Wow,
1 year, 2 months. Yeah.
you just celebrated your anniversary of home ownership.
June 19th. Yes, around your birthday. Around your birthday. Yeah.
Oh,
17th. June 17th.
wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing. And that's kind of what we want to discuss today. Uh, we're gonna get into some nuts and bolts, like what it was like for the home ownership experience getting there, and what was needed. But today we really want to just focus on its impact. Its impact on your life and also your family life. So we may get a little personal, not too deep, but just to kind of So my first question is, if you don't mind sharing, before you purchased your home,
Mm-hmm.
what was living in rental apartments or rental units like?
It was pretty much dealing with the landlord. If he feel fit to fix something, you know, if it's a problem, they might get around to it, they might don't. So that was like the main concern dealing with like landlords. If they're a slumlord or whatever. And then coming here, like I say, come from Chicago to Minnesota, we really had to accept whatever we can because it was hard to find housing here, especially to accommodate our family. So we took what was available to us at the time. And the landlord, he wasn't the best. I'm saying he wasn't the worst, but he wasn't the best as well. So coming from that to where I'm at now, I'm very appreciative of this.
So how often would you say, well, not how often, how many between when you first moved out from living with your parents,
Hmm.
how many places would you estimate it you and your family resided at?
We well, that ain't even hard. We practically moved like I say every 3 years. Like first part was 3 years, and moved to the next one 3 years. We moved again 3 years, and then the last one before coming to well that I was around was 3 years. Then my situation happened.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, roughly every 3 years we moved around.
What effect would you say that had on your children growing up?
Well, coming from the way we grew up and moving around for them, it was hard because there was no stability as far as like friendships, community, the way we grew up. So they really didn't have it. So friends bouncing around from here to there, it's different schools. Yes, that's when they was young, but as they got older, we moved back to our, our neighborhood and community. So
Hmm.
they was able to build some type of foundation until again my situation happened and we wound up here.
And so now that we're here, right,
Hmm.
and the family has moved from Chicago to Minnesota, and when you guys made the decision to, we want to purchase a house,
Hmm.
what caused you to make that decision? What brought you to that decision, first of all?
Well, my wife, she always, you know, initiated. She wanted a home. Me, it really wasn't a big idea. I mean, it really didn't matter to me either or. But to her, it was a big thing to us own a house. But as I got more invested into it, I realized that yeah, that was the best opportunity for us to own a house. Because like us coming up, we grew up in a house, but it was a lot of turmoil, chaos dealing with that situation. So like
Hmm.
now to own a house is totally different. So my kids got stability. Everybody got stability. We ain't got to worry about moving back and forth or none of that. So
What was the what would you say was the mood of the kids when you guys let them in on we gonna buy a house this year?
they were happy. They were happy. They was happy about it, the situation. And I don't think they was really happy about the move because nobody likes to move. Plus, we realized how much stuff we had, so it was time to move. So, but no, no, no. Overall, yeah, everybody was happy. Everybody had the move was pretty much mutual. Everybody was happy. Yeah. And then when they came out and saw the house, because we kept them involved the whole time as we going to look for houses and picking out houses where we're gonna live and everything. So yeah, everybody was happy.
How big of a role did they play in the decision making process
Oh, they
of
played a big
picking the house?
role. They played a big role because if it wasn't enough room or adequate for them, then we wasn't gonna do it. So they had to be comfortable with they living quarters and everything else in order for us to make that decision.
What about the location?
Location, see the thing is they don't really know too much about the location because like I say from Chicago, pretty much stay to ourselves, ain't got a really chance. Like when we came here, we moved to Brooklyn Park. So they still was going to school in Brooklyn Park. I keep my kids in school in Brooklyn Park now because they done built some type of relationship out there and I don't want to disturb that. So they still go to school in Brooklyn Park. They really don't do too much interaction with the community, which probably my fault and their fault. They don't like to get out that much. But yeah, but other than that, no, everything's cool. Everything's fine. They don't have no problem.
Did you how many houses would you say y'all had looked at before you settled in on this one?
But it was a process because before we actually got this house and got with the build wealth and the real estate, everything, we had dealt with two other organizations before we got with this organization. And it was like a process, pretty much, I say a waste of time for me. It was a waste of time because we wasted 2 months over here doing this with this organization to find out that we don't qualify for their program. And another 2 months or 3 months with another organization to find out we don't qualify for their program. And it was by that time, like I say, I pretty much was about to say, hey, it's over. My wife, she was still fully invested, so we moved forward. We got with Bill Wealth and made it happen.
So then I take it then y'all must have looked at a lot of houses
Yeah,
between then and there.
yeah, we did. Actually, I can't even give you a number. I can't even give you a number.
How many would you say y'all put an offer on? Was it more than one?
We put an offer. Well, before getting with Bill Wealth, we probably put in like three blank offers, blind offers. I'm gonna say that there.
Why would you say blind? Because the approval wasn't, you didn't have a
The money
secure.
wasn't. The money wasn't there. They gave us the illusion that the money was there, but when it came down to it, the money was never there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, so now let's kind of talk about um, leading up to the closing, because like um, when a person make a decision to purchase a home, the there's a when a person make a decision to purchase a home, that's the easy part is making the decision. But then there's the process though can be overwhelming. What are some of the steps you took to prepare yourself before even embarking on this journey? And what resources did you use to ensure you were making informed decisions?
Well, actually, try to clear up as much debt as possible. Try to clear up as much debt as possible that we had. Um, Sat down. We took a couple classes to build wealth on establishing and going about getting the house and what you have to go through to get the house. So with that and putting aside money and saving and clearing up debt and everything, after that, pretty much it was a walk through the park. So they just got to get your financial stability together. Got to get everything together. After that, it's pretty much a walk through the park. After that,
When you so when you guys purchased the house,
Mhm.
now it's time to move in. Compared to moving into back and forth to rental houses that you rented, what was the move like moving into this one, a house that you now own?
Oh, it was beautiful because we didn't have to worry about if we got to downsize or anything. 'Cause like I said, when we bought the house, it had to be enough room for us. So buying this house, we didn't have to worry about downsizing. And again, we didn't have to worry about like we finna be moving again in the next few years or none of that. So yeah, that was a beautiful thing. Like I say, besides the fact that I actually have to move, which don't nobody really like, but yeah, it was nice.
The and this is something that I've noticed over the years, but I don't want to just put it out there. So I want to ask, like, uh, what was it like for? Was there a difference? Did you see a difference in your kids once you moved into your home versus when you were living in the townhome you were renting?
Yeah, you could tell they was a lot happier. They was a lot happier. It was a lot moving around. Even now, I come home at night, I got cookies. My daughter didn't bake cookies. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a big difference. Other than other than really, they still ain't paying no bills and all that. But yeah, other than that, no, everything. Yeah, they happy. You can feel the energy.
What about maintaining, like the maintenance part of it, and the
So,
renovations?
so like that's the only difference. But like I say, we was dealing with slumlords anyway, so things wasn't really getting done when we wanted to anyway. So now, if it's a problem, we just take care of it ourselves. Like we only had one situation since being here. That was a clog. The drain pipe was clogged. That was it.
What are some tips or strategies you learned along the way to help manage and prioritize some of the home improvements?
Oh, like we said, we putting aside money every check. Every check we put something to the side just in case something comes up big. We ain't gotta like be around here struggling, trying to figure out how this gonna get done, that's gonna get done, and we can be able to do it. And that's pretty much keeping the house upkept, making sure everything all right, cleaning, whatever we have to do.
And how critical a role has budgeting played in your home financial perspective?
Well, it actually has showed me a lot because you already know I used to spend. Money never really meant too much to me, so I spend. Now I don't. I just actually, like I say, I just went to the mall. What was that 2 weeks ago and walked through the whole mall, then buy a thing. Why you ain't know I'm not buying nothing. So it's different because I know now I have to put money towards what's more important, and that's this house.
The so I'm pretty sure like the home buying process it got kind of difficult with regards to like all the different houses that you had to look at, the multiple bids that you had to put in, the changing lenders multiple times. What were some of the things that kept you motivated, like that said, you know what, this is worth having?
Again, actually, my wife, she was the one really pushing
Mhm.
for it. And my daughter, my kids was yeah, like I said, they was very involved in it. They stayed looking for houses, sending me houses to look at while I'm out at work or whatever. I go on break, it's houses to look at, and so that just kept us going. That and then once we actually got with married a realtor, she just focused in. It wasn't no, she focused in on exactly what we wanted, and it made it very easy very easy for us. So yeah, on her husband, yeah, they made it very easy for us.
Looking back on your home ownership journey, is there anything you know now that you wish you knew when you first bought your home?
And I know now, no, probably not. Everything, like I said, everything actually been smooth. Everything's been smooth. I can't really complain about anything. Everything's been smooth. So yeah, coming from where we came from, like yeah, everything's been smooth, real smooth.
Okay. Would you say that this is hmm, would you say that this is one of the better decisions that you've made purchasing a home?
Yeah, yeah, far. Because, like I say, like to me, it wasn't really a big deal. But once I got invested in it and thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense because going forward, I don't have to worry about my kids. Once we gone, where they gonna stay at, or they gonna be struggling trying to find somewhere to stay, or anything. They have a place to stay, you know, and this is ours. So if a family, something happened to a whole family, I could bring them in here and they ain't got to worry about nobody telling me what I can and cannot do because it's mine. So yeah, so that's the good thing. I like that.
You know, the when I asked to take on the show for Al today, I was one, um I won't lie, I was nervous. I was like, ah man. And then I just kept thinking about like, okay, so what do we talk about today? In terms of a discussion. And um and the value of home ownership, it just kept coming up. It just kept coming up. It just kept coming up. And not just from the financial perspective of it, but the intrinsic perspective of it. Because intrinsically, when we were growing up, one of the things that when I look back over our lives, um, before we moved into a property owned by our grandmother, our grandmother owned a triplex. Before we moved into the triplex, we moved like four times in a very short period of time, almost every 2 years. The minute our mom moved out of the triplex and my grandmother sold it, you know, there was another four times before her and our father eventually landed in a place where they've been there for several years now. And when you think about the value of home ownership, it's not just a matter of um, the equity part of it, and that's really what I'm hoping people get out of this conversation today, because um, stability,
Mm-hmm.
you can't put a value on that. Some of my, not mine, some of our oldest friends I've been knowing some of my oldest friends since kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
before kindergarten. Before we went to school, we still have some of those same
Yeah,
old friends,
yeah, we
primarily
do.
because we didn't move.
Right, we did.
Thank God during those short periods of time that we did move, and we were what they call a transit family, because that's what renting does. It's transit. Every time you turn around, you're transitioning to a new location for whatever the reason may be. Maybe the landlord raised the rent. Maybe the landlord wasn't taking care of some things that should have been taken care of. Maybe maybe the family has outgrown the place, or maybe the landlord decided to sell the building that you're living in, and now it's time to move. And so, what ends up happening, though, when you think about the value, the true value of home ownership, is the equity. That's one thing, but the primary thing is we now have a stable base in which we can come home to. Um, it's Your purchase wasn't an easy fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was a battle. That was a war that consisted of multiple battles. Every time you went to a house, you would decide on where you were going to lay your head down and plant roots at. Every time you said that this is the one that you were going to admit, you then had to put in an offer and have your offer compete with other
Yeah.
offers, multiple offers. Those are the many battles that you go through, and then you finally get an offer accepted, only to find out that the lender now saying that they can't do the loan.
Yeah.
Then you start with another program, and you find out that they can't do the loan. Then you find out starting with a third program. But everything that's worth having,
It's
everything
a
that's
fight for.
is worth fighting for. The I think I remember a conversation we were having where you were telling me that um you stayed on your front porch all night.
Yeah. I slept in the backyard too. Yeah. Yeah, I stayed on the porch all night last a couple of nights, actually, a couple of weekends off work. Just go sit out there just all night. One night I'm in the back, went to sleep. My daughter come wake me up 4 o'clock in the morning, ask me what I'm doing. I'm comfortable, you know, comfortable.
And there's a piece that comes with home ownership that we can't get past and we can't escape. And so, Bill Wolf, Minnesota, we've been um, fighting aggressively in this campaign to help 9,000 other Black families get into home ownership. And when you look back over your situation, is there anything any resources that you felt you needed that wasn't available, or that could help another family that's struggling to get into home ownership?
All I can say is like only thing I would have wish I would have done different was went straight to build wealth because it would have saved me a lot of heartache, a lot of doubt, stress. You know, it would have, and my interest rate would have been a lot lower too. So yeah,
That was a cost. Time cost and money, and money was a result of your interest rates had increased from the time that you started up until the time that you actually came over.
yeah.
Um, the Any advice you would give to um, young families that's looking to get into home ownership?
I'll say this, like, 'cause I was just on the phone actually with my little cousin about a couple hours ago, and he was just saying how he just sat back and thought about it because he's paying over $1,500 a month for rent, and he's saying that he wish no, he's finna just go ahead and move out of there and get him a condo. He said because over 10 years he'd have been in gave these people who own this apartment building $200,000, and he could be on his own condo by then. So yeah, it's best to go and invest into your own because you ain't doing nothing but getting somebody else pockets fat instead of taking care of you and getting some stability for you and your family. So yeah, I wish I would have did it years ago. Yeah.
And now we get into the financial aspect of home ownership, right? Because in my personal journey, when me and my wife first looked and started, we decided, okay, we're going to purchase a home, and we thought we were across the street from purchasing one. We thought we were that close that only thing we needed to do is go in and tell somebody we wanted to purchase, and bam, we would get approved. And it turned out that we were 4 years away. We started 2000, and it wasn't until 2004 that we ended up purchasing. And the market had collapsed. We went through the foreclosure epidemic, and um, um, and we got caught up. We got swept up in that because I worked in the mortgage industry during that time, and I lost 60% of my income. And so I went from working whenever I wanted to work to barely working whenever I wanted to work. And and we endured foreclosure for I think 2 to 3 years. We were in that nonsense, and we watched our value drop when we first purchased the house. It was like 1 million. 155, and the value dropped all the way down to like as low as I think 68,000. And and we were agonizing. I mean, like agonizing over whether or not we wanted to even continue down this path and just cut our losses. And then they changed the rules and they said, well, if you leave, it used to be that if you had a foreclosure, you can get back into home ownership within 4 years,
Mhm.
but then they pushed it out to 7 years. And so now it was like if you walk away, then there's a 7 year block before you can even think about getting to home ownership.
Mhm.
And so we decided to just hold. I was like, no, no, I got a feeling it's gonna come back. It's everything that goes, goes up comes down sometimes, but then it comes right back up. This is the market. And so, and you always have more ups in the markets than you have downs. And so we we just held on. I said, no, we're gonna hold on to this. We're gonna hold on to this. And I remember having friends from Chicago, Ray, who kept saying, man, boy, just hold on to your house, man. You're gonna need that house. You're gonna need that house. You're gonna need that house for your brothers. And he used to always say that, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna need that house for your brothers, man. And I took it lightly, like, yeah, I know, man, my brother's gonna always have a place. But but then but then we get into from 2003, now it's 2020. And this is to encourage others, because um when we purchased, we didn't have I looked for some money with the family. You know what I'm saying? Because we needed some money to put down, and we simply didn't have it. And so we ended up, looking at our finances and budgeting and everything, and sure enough, we ended up ended up raising the money. But now, 20 years later, you know what I'm saying, we at a place now where we have equity, and this is where the value of home ownership come into play because you know. Come to find out that y'all was having a situation financially with purchasing a home. And so we were able to come out and grab the equity from our home to then assist my brother Michael with purchasing a home and turn around and maybe a couple of months later assist my brother William with owning a home because the value of home ownership is in the equity as well, but it's intrinsically embedded in the impact that it has on the family. Because stability, at the end of the day, go out to the workforce, you work, 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 work. You got a battle for raises. You got a battle uh, uh, for being hired on to better positions. You constantly dealing with something, and having a firm, stable base to come home at the end of the day to rest your head and to lay back. That's where the true value of home ownership comes into play. It's hard to project long term when every 2 years or every 3 years you have to change your home base. And I know that we're getting kind of close to your time. Um, 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 but before
Mhm.
we let you go, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to tell anyone that, trust me, if I could do it, anybody could do it. Before I purchased this home, before I came here, I knew nothing about credit. Credit was never even in my realm. So coming from, like I say, no credit to having anything to never even actually having a job before coming here, trust me, anybody could do it. 2 years of work history, clear up whatever debt you got, lean on whoever you can to help, and there you go. It'll be all right. Trust me. Ain't no sense in keep giving people your money when you could build your own.
Thank you very much for joining us, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out your day. Um, it is 1:35. I know you still got a little bit you might have to do before you go in. So Thanks again, man. I appreciate you, bro.
No problem, brother. Anytime. Love you.
All right, love you too.
All right.
So here we are on this path to home ownership. I made mention before that Bill Walk, Minnesota, we have an initiative to help 9,000 Black families get into home ownership. Why? Because we want to see 9,000 Black families stable, 9,000 Black families raising children in stable communities where they can establish long-term relationships. I got friends I go home to see that I've been knowing since I was 3 years old, 4 years old, growing up in Chicago. Why? Because my family didn't move. We weren't all over the place. It provided me with stability, and not just stability for my mother and my father, but for me as an adult. It's those long-term relationships that we lean on now. It provided us with stable environment for going into school, getting an education. So the 9,000 Equities Initiative, it's not just about not this ain't about like getting 9,000 buy 9,000 houses. No, this ain't about that at all. This is about stabilizing communities. This is about stabilizing households. This is about providing a pathway to generational wealth that has been stripped from us. I know that's a topic that we don't like to talk about all the time, and it's a topic that you don't hear talk about so much with uh, not with my generation. My generation talk about it a lot, but as we get older, my nieces and nephews they rarely talk about it. I know that I was doing a search on my family history for uh, with my nieces and nephews a couple of weeks ago, um, and we had hit a dead end. Our grandparents, they were easy to find. Uh, my great grandparents, that became kind of difficult to find. It took some digging to find them. Then my great grandparents, it was almost impossible to find them. And it's like, wow, okay. So there's a lot of going through census records and government records trying to look them up. And I still haven't found all of them, just a handful. And I kept wondering, I'm like, man, so why why did we hit this black wall? What's going on? And I started looking for, like, okay, what are the clues? And one of the clues I looked at was the year. My father's father was born in 1898, and he was one of the youngest of his father's children. And I looked at my uh, my great grandmother, and they were born in 1890s, 1893, on my father's maternal side. And then it finally hit that I'm using the tools that I use to find them are not applicable for the tools I need to find their parents and their parents' parents. Because we move from looking for people to looking for property, looking for chattel. And when you think about wealth being passed down from generation to generation, it's not much more than a hundred and I don't know 50 years to where we went from negative to starting at zero. And with all the challenges, the redlining, um, historical bank practices over the years, and even current practices, just when it seemed like we're in position to then take advantage of a changing market, the foreclosure crisis had made Um, it created an opportunity unlike anything the history of this U.S. of this government has ever seen for people who were in position to take advantage of that opportunity. You had a reduction in prices as well as a reduction in interest rates, where people could buy houses at very affordable rates. But just as we're getting in position to do it, they began to change the rules. They changed the rules from one rule they changed, okay, student loans. It used to be that if a student loan was in deferment, they would use zero, whatever's on the credit report. If there's nothing on the credit report, they would just use zero as a payment. They then changed that to 1% of the balance, to 1% of the balance. And many of us that's coming from poor households, we had to taking out student loans was not an option in order for you to get an education. And if you went on to, and after you went on and got your bachelor's degree, you went on and got a master's degree or a doctorate, you're talking about even more loans, loans upwards of $100,000. For some of us, we're having to take out $50,000 and get an associate's degree. And at 1% of $50,000, that's $500 a month that they would add to your debt ratio, which will reduce your purchasing power by a significant amount. By a significant amount. Many families weren't able to even go on and take advantage of that that season simply because they had high student loan debt. So now, when you think about it, someone might say, "Well, that was a rule that broadly affected everybody." Yes, it did broadly affect everybody. However, its impacts was disproportionately higher in our community than any other community, because in our community there's the greater tendency to have to take out student loans because of the gap in wealth and the wealth disparity. Over the years, instead of the housing rate going up for the Black community in Minnesota, it started to dip and go down. When we think about 9,000 equities, we're not just trying to get people into houses. We're trying to impact entire communities. And one of the things that the 9,000 equities, so it's not 9,000 equities, not build wealth. We we started the initiative. We founded the initiative. I'm one of the co-founders of the initiative. But this initiative is not something it's not something that we can accomplish in and of ourselves. The 9,000 Equities Initiative Partnership, it consists of 18 organizations coming together who have made it their life's work to helping families get into home ownership, to fill in those missing pieces. One of the things that my family needed that I did not get when I started my journey, I wish I had financial education. I wish somebody helped me look at my credit report. Even though I was in the mortgage industry, well, that was 3 years later. I was 1 year into the mortgage industry when we finally got into a home. And at that point, I understood the credit game. And I was able to help our family improve our credit so that we can get approvable. But budgeting, we never had that conversation. Having a financial coach to help guide you through the process, we didn't have that. Down payment assistance, I don't even know what down payment assistance was. For us, it was our money that we saved and negotiating with the seller to pay 3% of the sales price into for our closing costs. The 9,000 Equities Initiative, it consists of lenders. It consists of realtors and other nonprofit organizations such as Build Wealth Minnesota that provide financial education and one-on-one counseling to make sure that we don't want to leave any room for any excuses. That everything that you need in order to get into home ownership, you're able to access through one of our partner organizations. It's for families to have one door to come through, not 10 doors, one door to come through and connect to all the resources that you need in order for you to get into home ownership. One door. My brother went to 3 doors before he ended up here. And he's just one of many. And then there's the other part. Because once you get into home ownership, that's the easy part. But then having someone to kind of walk you through what does being a homeowner really means. It doesn't just mean that this is the key to my house. It doesn't just mean that um, that I don't have to move next year. But it means that every time something breaks, you gotta fix it. When the grass get high, you gotta cut it. When the snow fall, you gotta shovel it. When the seasons change, you gotta clean out your gutters if you don't have a leaf guard or some other device on there. So what ends up happening is you get into home ownership, there's other things that you now have to do in order to maintain it, to maintain your equity. Sometimes you need support on what do I fix first. Most people go into home ownership and next thing you know, they're trying to fix everything. But again, the key thing here is getting into home ownership. Getting into home, man, it's going to do more for you than you can possibly imagine. And not just for you, but for your children. For your children. Not just for you, but for your children. And then you may even be able to position yourself so that you can then grow the equity that's in your house and use some of that equity to help other family members get into home ownership. So with 9,000 equities, that's what we're here to do, to provide you with financial education and one-on-one counseling, either through Build Wealth Minnesota or Model Cities or Aurora St. Anthony Neighborhood Development Corporation. We also partner up with Habitat for Humanity. These are a few of the partners that we've partnered up with. The Home Ownership Center, Minnesota Home Ownership Center. We're also a partner of the Signature Group, Shauna Frazier, the Diamond Elite Realty, Marlis Realty Group. Also partners with Banneker Realty, Kim Golden, also realtor. And they're still yet to come. We have our own lending products as a network, our own down payment assistance as a network. Credit builder products to help you build your credit. Small savings, match savings plans to help you increase your savings for those who have, lower income. A lot of these things are fund based, so it's sometimes gonna be first come, first serve. But we've been trying to take away every need that you may have to get into home ownership. We want to be your rich uncle. We want to be your cousin. We want to be your friend. We want to be your helper. For those who don't make enough money, me and the organizations that I just listed, we also help families with increasing their earnings. Because we don't want there to be any reason for you not to get into home ownership. You need help with your credit, we're here to help you build your credit. I've had the worst of credit and the absolute best of credit, and then the worst of credit again, and now the absolute best of credit. To find out more about our 9,000 Equities initiative, I want to I want to encourage you to visit our website at 9000equities.org. Actually, I'm sorry, that's 9000equities.com. Or you can give us a call at 612 871 9000. Again, that's 612 871 9000. Want to thank Minnesota Department of Health again for partnering with us to bring the show. We're partnering with the Minnesota Department of Health to remind our community that the risk still exists. So let's continue to follow COVID-19 protocols. Wash your hands. I shouldn't have to tell you to wash your hands, man. But wash your hands. Stay aware and prioritize prevention. Together, we can create awareness, encourage testing, and help everyone stay healthy. Enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us today. And we pray that you continue to get well and get healthy. And what are some other topics? Let's see here. A couple of comments in the chat box. I want to make sure. So thank you again for joining us for Conversations with Al. My name is Jeffery Robinson, the Senior Program Director for Build Wealth Minnesota. Sitting in with Al, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us and pray you have a wonderful and grand day.